Hey everybody, Seven here. And thank you so much for joining me in Medieval Dynasty. Now, a while back I had put out a video just going into the townsfolk mood, what affects it, how you can improve it, and what effect it has on the townsfolk, how it affects their jobs, and a few other things. But in the comments section of that, I got a lot of really specific, in-depth questions that I hadn't had answers to and I hadn't fully researched yet. So this video is going to be kind of a follow-up to that one, and going into exactly what each building affects their mood for, the decorations, their job, and also the elusive how to get it to 100%. So I'll go through all the things that you can influence, all the things that you have control over, and the exact impact that all of those factors have on their happiness. And ultimately, unfortunately, we're going to go into one aspect that you won't have control over, not directly anyway. So let's get into this. So here I have two rather ostentatious houses with two, we'll call them volunteers. We have Zavora, and over here we have Reginald. So you see that both their happinesses have plateaued out, and at this stage they're at some kind of odd numbers. So Zavora is at 17, which sounds kind of strange, but I can break down exactly where the happiness is coming from and what's influencing it. Now, most of the aspects of the happiness are broken down into very even numbers, 5s and 10s. The insulation is actually the one aspect that is kind of a squirrely number. It's actually a 7. So what she's receiving right now is flat 0 for being in a crappy stick house with crappy thatch roof. 0 from the building. What she's also getting is 7 from being fully insulated in the daub. So you're wondering, if she's only getting 7 from her building, where's 17 coming from? We'll get to that in a second. Now, Reginald is at 60. So his happiness is being calculated by being, oddly enough, 43 for being in an entirely stone and plank roofed house, and then getting an additional 7 from the full limestone insulation, giving him 43 plus 7 to yield 50. But why is he at 60? The most important thing to note in this is we have a positive king. So in this playthrough, I had done a number of jobs for the Herald, gotten my reputation all the way up to excellent, which is the maximum. So we've got the maxed out minus 15 on taxes and plus 10% for the entire townsfolk mood. So since she would naturally be getting 7, she's at 17, he would naturally be at 50, he's at 60 instead. So let's run a few experiments on these guys and we'll see exactly what the impact on mood is. Alright, so here we are in a slightly alternate timeline, and we'll see what happens when we give these two jobs. Because the job is kind of a self-perpetuating thing for happiness. Having a job will make them happier, having a job that they're good at will make them happier still. But beyond that, their happiness will actually increase their productivity to their job as well. Happier they are, the better they work. So here you see Zavora is at 23, and she's a minor. And over here we've got Reginald is also a minor, and he's at 66. Now, neither of them have been decorated yet, but we're going to go over where those numbers are coming from. So since the only change that has happened to these two to affect their mood is them having a job, why is their mood such a strange number? The aspect of that comes from their skills. The happiness that a person is going to receive from getting a job is going to be twice that of their skill set. So Zavora here is 3 extraction, 3 survival, and pretty meh in the rest. So because she's a level 1 farmer, if I put her over to the barn or the farm shed, animal husbandry, something like that, she'd only get plus 2. So while she would be happier as a farmer than just sitting around the house doing nothing all day, she's not going to be nearly as happy as she could be. Now you'll note that the townsfolk can, through their own actions and continue to do their job, get better at their job. That improvement of their job will actually improve their mood as well. So as these two go throughout their days, digging, collecting iron, collecting copper, whatever I've got them assigned to, they'll continue to get better at that. They'll get to level 5, they'll get plus 10 to happiness, they'll get to level 7, they'll get plus 14 to happiness, and so on. So while the biggest impact to their mood is their housing, a very large one can be generated from what job they have and how skilled they are at that job. Unfortunately, that's something that's just going to take time. So you can maximize it by putting them in a job that they have level 3 in, but ultimately you're not going to get the full plus 20 to mood until they've reached level 10 in their job. So now let's throw a few decorations around, wait for their mood to stabilize, and we'll see what kind of an impact that has. So here we are in an alternate timeline. Let's check in on them now. So you can see she is still just a level 3 miner, still in the same house. Our fellow over here is also a level 3 miner, still in the same house. But this time we've got both houses fully decorated. Now, I say fully decorated, there's clearly multiple more slots that decorations can go in, but going overkill does nothing. And I say going overkill both in terms of the quality of the decorations as well as the quantity. So here we have the Badger rugs, which are the absolute baseline, bare bones minimum of the rug. The difference between this and the bear rug, which is the maximum, in terms of happiness, is actually 0. It doesn't matter what type of rug is covering the floor, anything on the floor will increase happiness. Same can be said for the ceiling. So even though I have a lantern in here, this could easily be 4 straw Himleys and it would give the same effect. I also have nothing on the walls, which there are a multitude of different hanging lanterns or shelves or just racks and various storage type things. All of those increase the mood, but having more than 10 slots will do nothing. So I have 2 from the wooden planks, 1 on each side. I have 4 more from the roof and 4 more from the floor. So it maxes out at a total of 10. So running through the math on her, she's getting 0 for the house, 7 for the insulation, she's getting 6 for her job, 10 for the decorations, and 10 for the king, which is dropping her out at 33. And over at Reginald, same thing. He's getting 43 for the house, 7 for the insulation, 6 for his job because he's also only level 3, 10 for all of his decorations, and 10 for the king. Another thing that you can do is move 2 people together, have them get married, and then ultimately have them have kids. So let's see what impact that has. Alright, so here we have our same 2 houses and our same 2 people. Let's check things out. So as you can see, I had to wait quite an extended period of time for Zavora to level out. Her happiness from being in this tiny little ramshackle shack over here to being in this concrete palace took quite a bit to even out and get her to maximize. But then after that, we find another nice round number of 10. So you can see no decorations, nothing on the inside or on the outside, and they both are still unemployed. So the house is getting them 43, the insulation up to 50, getting married got them to 60, and the king got them to 70. And I think already you can see where we're going with this. The king is kind of the linchpin. So let's take one more time jump on these 2, and we'll see what having kids did to them. Alrighty, so here's our 2 favorite test subjects, just a few years down the line. And let's go check in on them now. So as you can see, still no decoration. Also, both of them still have no job. But the important thing you'll notice is a wide discrepancy between the 2 of them. But we can easily explain the math on this one. So remember when I said that how good they are at their job affects their happiness times 2. So a level 5 production, working in a workshop making clay vials or something, is going to get plus 10. So the thing is, being a mother counts as a job. She cannot be assigned to any other profession for 2 years while she is with her kid. Now, since there is no stat or aspect or anything that governs what the profession of mother is going to do, every female is just assumed to be an absolutely level 10, perfect, flawless mother. So what is she getting from this? She's getting 43 for a stone house, up to 50 for the insulation. She's getting plus 10 for being married, but she's getting a whopping plus 20 for being maxed out at the current job that she has. She is considered a level 10 mother, so she's getting 10 times 2 equals 20 for the profession. He has no profession, so he's not getting anything from that. Tack on another plus 10 for the king, so you'll see that having a kid actually only adds plus 5 and isn't necessarily required, but as we'll go through some things, you'll find that it's actually possible to get more than 100%, even though getting over 100% will do nothing. And if you run the math on it, you can actually see 43 for the house, plus 7 for insulation, plus a potential of 20 for the job, provided that they're at level 10 for the job that they're currently occupying, plus 10 for the decorations, plus 10 for being married, plus 5 for having a kid, and plus 10, assuming you have the correct king, will actually net you 105%. Unfortunately, there is no benefit to being that high. It will actually max out at 100. What that could do for you, though, is seasonal adjustments or things that are outside your control, some of the between-season events that just have automatic negative modifiers on mood will actually impact you less. So if you've got your town operating at 105%, you'll be able to mitigate some of those seasonal changes. But as I've been referencing the king several times throughout this video, let's take a trip to a town that does not have this good king and isn't getting the plus 10% overall mood that these guys are. Alrighty, so here we are in a completely different town, completely different playthrough, but we've got a very specific set of circumstances happening here. You'll see that we've got this guy plateaued out, just almost maxed out, but I'm not going to be able to get him to 100. You'll also see that his wife is at kind of an odd number, and we can run through these numbers as well. So the house is 50. He is a level 10 production, and he's a cook, which means he's getting 20 from his job. They have max decorations in their house at level 10. They're married, they have a kid. So every last one of those aspects is something that I have control over. Because as you can see, he's got level 1 hunting, level 2 extraction. I could make him go do one of those jobs and just watch his mood plummet because he's so good at production. But there's no way for me to bridge the gap of the last 5%. And that's because we have a neutral or negative king. I'm not sure which one he is, but at least they've altered it so that the negative kings no longer give adverse mood. Once upon a time, it was doing herald quests for a bad king would actually decrease your taxes, but also decrease your overall mood for the townsfolk. It does appear as though that the negative king and the neutral king both give no adjustment to mood at all, so at least you're not getting a negative. But bringing it back to what I said at the top of the video, that's also why I said what you can control and what is outside your control. Now, the herald and the king are loosely under your control, but even if you try to influence it, it's still heavily RNG dependent because you need the herald to show up in order to be able to influence it. What you need to do to influence your king is to either successfully complete herald quests or to deliberately fail them. So the herald is RNG based anyway. Every season that he does not show up, he has an increased percentage chance of showing up the next season, but even still, there's no guarantee, and you could go several years without seeing one. So if you see the herald, accept his quest, and are able to successfully manage it and give the herald what he needs, it will actually increase the likelihood of the king surviving the next year. Conversely, if you find the herald, take his job, and then deliberately fail his job, don't turn in the resources, don't have them, whatever you have to do to make that fail, it will actually increase the chances of the king being replaced. Now I say increase the chances because there is no guarantee that failing 2, 3, even 5 herald quests will even result in the king dying. It just hedges the bet on increasing the chances that you can recycle one king and turn it into a different one. The other thing is all of that is RNG for the herald showing up, RNG on what name or type of king you have, and then RNG on how much successfully completing the mission increases the chance of the king staying around, and the RNG of how much did that actually decrease the chances of a bad king staying around if you deliberately failed it. And that is all of the aspects that you have control over, and how to even try to influence a little of the ones that you don't have control over. So I hope this more deep dive, really intensive one was able to help you out some. And I hope maybe you learned a little bit about the townsfolk and how they interact and how they operate. And I hope maybe I've answered a few of those questions that I just didn't have the research into to answer in the previous one. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me in Medieval Dynasty, and hope to see you in the next one. This is 7. Good night, guys.